Imagine archaeologists digging beneath an ordinary hill in southeastern Turkey, expecting nothing more than a medieval cemetery. But with every layer of soil they removed, they uncovered something impossible. Massive stone pillars, perfectly carved, each weighing up to 20 tons, decorated with lions, snakes, vultures, and creatures that vanished from Earth thousands of years ago. Then came the date. Not 2,000 years old, not 5,000 years old, nearly 12,000 years old, older than Stonehenge, older than the Great Pyramids, older than writing, older than metal, and even older than the invention of farming itself. Everything historians believed about the birth of civilization suddenly collapsed, because according to everything we know, hunter-gatherers weren't supposed to build monuments. Yet somehow, they created the oldest known monumental sanctuary on Earth. Who were they? Why did they build it? And why, after centuries of use, did they deliberately bury the entire complex beneath thousands of tons of dirt, as if they wanted it to disappear forever? Today, we uncover the mystery of Göbekli Tepe, the place that may have rewritten human history forever. But before we dig deeper, if you love mysterious forgotten civilizations and history's greatest unsolved secrets, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because what lies beneath this ancient hill may be the greatest secret humanity has ever buried. For thousands of years, Göbekli Tepe was nothing more than an ordinary hill. Rising gently above the plains of southeastern Turkey, it blended into the landscape so perfectly that shepherds walked across it every day without suspecting what lay beneath their feet. Locals had given it a simple name, Göbekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill. Nothing about it suggested that one of history's greatest discoveries was hidden just below the surface. For centuries, wind carried dust across the hill. Rain slowly buried ancient stones. Grass covered every trace of the past. It was as if nature itself had decided to erase the memory of who built this place. Even archaeologists overlooked it. In the 1960s, a survey team briefly visited the hill. Scattered pieces of carved limestone poked through the ground. Large stones were visible in several places. But the team reached a simple conclusion. The hill was probably nothing more than an abandoned medieval cemetery. Their report was filed. The site was forgotten, and one of humanity's oldest monuments remained hidden for another 30 years. Then, everything changed. In 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived at the hill. Unlike the earlier surveyors, Schmidt noticed something unusual. The stones weren't random. They had been deliberately shaped. Some had smooth, flat surfaces impossible to explain by natural erosion. Others showed signs of careful human carving. He later admitted that almost immediately he realized this place was extraordinary. Either he would leave, or spend the rest of his life excavating the hill. He chose to stay. The very first excavations revealed something astonishing. Massive T-shaped limestone pillars emerged from the earth. Not small standing stones, but gigantic monuments reaching over 5 meters, more than 16 feet into the sky. Some weighed between 15 and 20 tons. Moving stones that heavy is difficult even with modern machinery. Yet these builders had no metal tools, no wheels, no horses, no written language. Nothing that historians believed was necessary to construct monuments on this scale. As more earth was removed, the mystery only deepened. The pillars weren't standing alone. They formed enormous circular enclosures, each carefully planned, each built with astonishing precision. The builders had arranged the stones in symmetrical patterns, surrounding 2 even larger pillars at the center. This wasn't a campsite. It wasn't a village. It wasn't a fortress. It was something entirely different. Then archaeologists looked closer. Every pillar carried carvings, not simple scratches, but incredibly detailed artwork. Foxes, wild boars, snakes slithering across the stone, scorpions, gazelles, cranes, lions, vultures spreading their enormous wings. Some animals appeared calm. Others looked ready to attack. The carving seemed almost alive despite being created nearly 12,000 years ago. And there was something even stranger. Many of the T-shaped pillars had carved arms running down their sides, hands resting across their stomachs, belts fastened around their waists, loincloths hanging from their bodies. These weren't just pillars. They appeared to represent enormous human-like figures, silent guardians watching over the sanctuary for thousands of years. But the biggest shock was still waiting. Scientists collected charcoal fragments, animal bones, and organic material buried within the oldest layers. Using radiocarbon dating, they calculated the age. Around 9600 BC, nearly 12,000 years ago. The results stunned the archaeological world. At that point in history, cities did not exist. Agriculture had barely begun. According to every history textbook, humans were still living as small bands of hunter-gatherers. People like that weren't supposed to organize thousands of workers, quarry 20-ton stones, transport them across rugged hills, and build one of the most sophisticated ceremonial complexes on Earth. Yet the evidence lay directly beneath their feet. Solid, undeniable. History had just encountered a place that simply should not exist. And as archaeologists continued digging, they made an even more disturbing discovery. This incredible sanctuary hadn't been destroyed by war. It hadn't collapsed in an earthquake. It hadn't been abandoned to time. Someone, with extraordinary effort, had intentionally buried the entire complex beneath thousands of tons of soil and rubble, not to preserve it, not by accident, but deliberately. The question was no longer who built Göbekli Tepe. The question had become, why would anyone erase the greatest monument of their own civilization? Imagine standing on this hill 12,000 years ago. No cities, no kings, no written language, no metal tools, no farms stretching across the horizon, just forests, open grasslands, and small groups of hunter-gatherers moving with the seasons. At least, that's what history taught us. For decades, archaeologists believe civilization followed a simple path. First came farming. Farming created food surpluses. Food surpluses created permanent villages. Villages became cities. And only then do humans have enough time and resources to build temples and monuments. It seemed logical, until Gobekli Tepe shattered that timeline. Radiocarbon dating showed these massive stone circles were built thousands of years before large-scale agriculture appeared in the region. In other words, the temple came first, the farms came later. That single discovery turned one of archaeology's oldest assumptions upside down. But if these people weren't farmers, who were they? The answer is almost unbelievable. The evidence points to highly organized hunter-gatherers. They hunted wild gazelles, wild cattle, boar, deer. They gathered nuts, wild grains, and edible plants from the surrounding hills. Yet, somehow, they also coordinated construction projects unlike anything the world had ever seen. Think about what that means. Each limestone pillar had to be carved directly from the bedrock using nothing more than stone tools. Every cut, every smooth surface, every detailed animal carving required extraordinary patience and skill. Then came the hardest part, transporting stones weighing up to 20 tons. Without wagons, without oxen, without iron, without cranes. Even today, archaeologists still debate exactly how it was done. Some believe hundreds of people pulled the stones using thick ropes made from plant fibers. Others think wooden sledges slide across carefully prepared paths. But no one knows for certain. What we know is that this project demanded something far greater than physical strength. It demanded planning, leadership, communication, and cooperation between large groups of people. This wasn't random labor. It was organized society. Then another mystery emerged. Archaeologists searched the hill for houses, cooking areas, family homes, storage buildings, anything that suggested people lived here. They found almost nothing. No ordinary settlement, no permanent village, no evidence that thousands of people called this place home. Instead, Gobekli Tepe appears to have been a destination, a place people traveled to, perhaps from many different regions. Imagine hundreds, maybe thousands, of hunter-gatherers gathering here at certain times of the year, sharing food, performing ceremonies, building monuments together, then returning to their distant homelands. If that's true, Gobekli Tepe may have been the world's first great pilgrimage site, a sacred meeting place, long before the first cities existed. And that raises an extraordinary possibility. What if religion, not farming, was a force that first brought large human communities together? What if the desire to build sacred places inspired people to settle nearby, which eventually led to agriculture itself? It's a radical idea, but it's one many archaeologists now seriously consider. In this version of history, civilization didn't begin with bread. It began with belief. Yet the deeper researchers looked, the stranger the site became. The animal carvings weren't random decorations. Again and again, the same creatures appeared. Foxes, snakes, scorpions, vultures, predators, dangerous animals. Symbols repeated across different enclosures, almost as if they carried meanings we can no longer understand. Were they clan symbols, spiritual guardians, warnings, or messages left behind for future generations? No one knows, because the builders left us no writing, no names, no stories, only stone, and silent symbols that refuse to explain themselves. But hidden among those carvings was one image so disturbing that it continues to divide experts to this day. A scene that may reveal what these ancient people truly believe about life, death, and the human soul. By now, Gobekli Tepe had already broken every rule of history. But the greatest mystery wasn't when it was built. It was what the builders were trying to say. Every pillar, every carving, every symbol seemed intentional. Nothing appeared at random. Yet after nearly 3 decades of excavation, no one has been able to read their message. Because these people left behind no written language, only images, and those images are unlike anything found anywhere else on Earth. Walk through the stone circles, and you'll see a world filled with predators. Foxes sprint across the pillars. Snakes twist around the stone. Wild boars charge forward. Scorpions spread their deadly claws. Lions stalk unseen prey. Vultures stretch their enormous wings. These aren't peaceful scenes. They're raw, wild, and often unsettling. Some archaeologists believe the animals represented powerful spirits or guardians. Others think they symbolize different clans that gathered at Gobekli Tepe. And some believe they tell an ancient story, one we've completely forgotten. But then, researchers notice something even stranger. Many of the animals are shown in motion. Their bodies seem alive. Their muscles are tense. Their heads turned as if they were watching someone. It's as though the builders wanted visitors to feel surrounded, not by stone, but by living forces. And then came one of the most controversial discoveries at the entire site. A pillar known today as the Vulture Stone. Its surface is covered with mysterious symbols, large birds, wild animals, abstract shapes, and what appears to be a human figure. No one agrees with what it means. Some researchers believe it records an important religious ceremony. Others think it tells the story of a catastrophic event remembered by these ancient people. A few have even suggested it could preserve memories of the dramatic climate changes that followed the end of the last ice age. But none of these ideas have been proven. The stone refuses to give up its secret. Nearby, another carving shocks visitors. A human head separated from its body. Elsewhere, headless human figures appear again. Why? Archaeologists have discovered evidence that, in some prehistoric cultures of the region, human skulls may have held special ceremonial importance. Some skulls found at nearby sites were carefully modified, perhaps displayed, or used in rituals honoring the dead. Could Gobekli Tepe have been connected to those traditions? It's possible, but once again, the evidence is incomplete. The stones ask questions, far more often than they answer them. Then there's the shape of the pillars themselves. At first glance, they look simply, but look closer. Each massive T-shaped pillar has carved arms, hands folded across the front, a belt wrapped around the waist, even a carefully carved loincloth. These aren't ordinary columns supporting a roof. They appear to represent gigantic human-like beings, silent, faceless, watching over every ceremony held within the circles. Were they ancestors, priests, gods, or something far older than any religion we know today? No one can say with certainty. Perhaps the most haunting fact of all is that we've uncovered only a tiny fraction of the site. Ground-penetrating surveys suggest that many more stone enclosures still lie hidden beneath the earth. Most of Gobekli Tepe remains buried exactly as its builders left it thousands of years ago. That means the greatest discoveries may still be waiting underground. The symbols we argue over today might one day be joined by new carvings that completely change their meaning. Every excavation season has the potential to rewrite the story again. But before archaeologists could uncover everything, they first had to solve an even darker mystery. Because the builders of Gobekli Tepe didn't simply walk away. They didn't abandon their sanctuary to nature. Instead, they did something almost unimaginable. They buried it, stone by stone, layer by layer, thousands upon thousands of tons of earth, carefully placed over the monuments, not by accident, not by time, but by human hands. Why would an entire civilization erase the greatest achievement it had ever created? The answer may be the most fascinating mystery of all. Most ancient monuments share the same fate. They collapse. They're destroyed by war, shaken apart by earthquakes, or slowly disappear beneath centuries of wind and rain. Gobekli Tepe is different. It didn't fall. It didn't burn. It wasn't abandoned and forgotten. It was buried, deliberately. As archaeologists removed layer after layer of soil, they noticed something extraordinary. The earth surrounding the stone circles wasn't natural. It was a carefully placed mixture of dirt, broken limestone, animal bones, flint tools, and countless fragments of everyday objects. Someone had carried this material to the site and poured it into the enclosures, again and again and again, until the towering pillars completely vanished beneath the ground. The amount of work was staggering. Thousands of tons of fill, enough to cover enormous stone monuments that had stood proudly for centuries. This wasn't the work of a few people. It required planning, coordination, and an enormous investment of time. The same kind of effort that had once been used to build the sanctuary was now being used to erase it. But why? No one knows. And that's where the theories begin. The first and most widely accepted idea is surprisingly simple. Some archaeologists believe the burial was part of the site's natural life cycle. Perhaps each stone enclosure served a sacred purpose for generations. Then, when its time had ended, the builders respectfully filled it in before constructing a new ceremonial circle nearby. Instead of destroying a holy place, they preserved it, like selling a time capsule for the future. It's a compelling explanation, but it doesn't answer every question. If the goal was simply preserve the site, why bury it so completely? Why hide it beneath such enormous amounts of material? Another theory points to a changing world. Around the time Gobekli Tepe was gradually abandoned, human societies were transforming. People who had once survived by hunting wild animals were beginning to cultivate crops and domesticate livestock. Villages became permanent. Life changed forever. Perhaps the old sanctuary, built for a world of roaming hunter-gatherers, no longer fit the beliefs of a new farming society. Rather than tearing it down, they laid it to rest with dignity. As one age ended, another began. But not everyone is convinced. Some researchers wonder whether the burial was connected to a major crisis, a dramatic climate shift, social upheaval, or beliefs we can no longer understand. There's no clear evidence that a single disaster forced the burial, yet the timing has fueled endless debate. Without written records, we're left with possibilities rather than certainty. And that's what makes Gobekli Tepe so captivating. Every answer opens to another mystery. Then archaeologists noticed something remarkable. The careful burial had an unexpected consequence. By sealing the monuments beneath the earth, the builders protected them. For nearly 12,000 years, the carvings remained hidden from wind, rain, war, and looting. The stone circles survived because someone chose to conceal them. It's one of history's greatest ironies. The act that seemed to erase the sanctuary preserved it. Had those ancient people simply abandoned Gobekli Tepe, very little might have remained today. Instead, their decision created a perfect archaeological time capsule, one that waited patiently until modern humans were finally ready to uncover it. But perhaps the most astonishing discovery wasn't what had already been excavated. It was what remained below. Using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive surveys, researchers detected signs of many more buried structures across the hill. Only a small portion of the site has been fully excavated. The vast majority still lie hidden beneath the earth, exactly where its builders left it. That means the story of Gobekli Tepe is far from over. The greatest chamber, the most important carving, or the final clue explaining why this place existed may still be waiting underground. And that leaves us with one final question. If a civilization capable of creating monuments like these existed 12,000 years ago, what else have we not discovered? What chapters of human history are still buried beneath our feet? When Klaus Schmidt first stood on Gobekli Tepe, he believed he had discovered an extraordinary archaeological site. He couldn't have known that it would challenge one of the foundations of human history. For generations, our story seemed complete. Humans learned to farm. Farming created villages. Villages became cities. Cities built temples. It was neat, logical sequence. But Gobekli Tepe forced historians to ask a difficult question. What if we've been telling the story in the wrong order? Here was a monumental ceremonial complex, built nearly 12,000 years ago, long before Egypt, long before Mesopotamia, long before Stonehenge, and crucially, before large-scale agriculture had fully developed in the region. That doesn't mean Gobekli Tepe was the first civilization, or that everything we know about history is wrong. But it does show that prehistoric societies were capable of organizing large, complex projects much earlier than scholars once believed. It reminds us that the path to civilization was far more complicated than we imagined, and the discoveries keep coming. Every excavation sees and uncovers new carvings, new structures, and new questions. Archaeologists estimate that only a small fraction of Gobekli Tepe has been excavated. Much of the hill remains untouched, protected, studied carefully, and left for future generations equipped with better technology. Because every stone removed can only be excavated once, researchers would rather move slowly than risk destroying evidence that has survived for 12,000 years. Today, scientists are using technologies the builders could never have imagined: ground-penetrating radar, three-dimensional laser scanning, digital reconstruction, microscopic residue analysis. Each new technique reveals details invisible to earlier generations of archaeologists. And with every discovery, our understanding of a site changes. Some theories are strengthened, others quietly disappear. That's the beauty of archaeology. It isn't about proving a favorite idea. It's about following the evidence, wherever it leads. Yet despite decades of research, Gobekli Tepe continues to guard its greatest secrets. We still don't know exactly who led its construction. We don't know what ceremonies took place inside the stone circles. We don't know the meaning of every carving. And we don't know why this magnificent sanctuary was ultimately buried beneath the earth. Some mysteries have possible explanations. Others remain completely unsolved. Perhaps that's why Gobekli Tepe fascinates millions of people around the world. It reminds us that history isn't a finished book. It's a puzzle, and many of the pieces are still missing. Somewhere beneath that quiet hill in southeastern Turkey, more answers are almost certainly waiting. Silent, hidden, patient, just as they have been for 12,000 years. Maybe one future excavation will uncover a carving that explains everything. Or maybe the greatest secret of Gobekli Tepe will remain buried forever, because sometimes the most powerful mysteries are the ones that refuse to be solved. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest enigmas, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next documentary. And now we want to hear from you. Why you think the builders buried Gobekli Tepe? Was it a sacred ritual, a changing civilization, or something we've yet to imagine? Share your theory in the comments below. We read every one. Until next time, keep questioning the past, because the deeper we dig, the more history surprises us. And sometimes the oldest secrets are still waiting beneath our feet.